and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, there is a new setup. I'm standing in front of my TBR shelf. I would really like to know how you like the new setting. Is it boring because like everybody does it, or is it a cool idea to change the backdrops between my unboxings where I have like all these boxes behind me and my like TBRs and wrap-ups where this would be my TBR shelf behind me. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Cece and I do mostly bookish subscription box unboxings. Sometimes I have some subscription boxes that are not bookish, and sometimes I do just bookish stuff like wrap-ups and TBRs. Here's my wrap-up for the month of August. In the month of August, I attempted to sit my nudes, and I feel like I failed, but I didn't really fail that much. If you consider that I read 9 books. I know 9 books isn't that bad, but I had 18 on my TBR, so it's only half. Then again, my TBRs are always overly ambitious. I'm satisfied and not satisfied at the same time, if you know what I mean. So these 9 books were a total of 3,865 pages, which is an okay count. I'm totally happy with that. Although I would love to get to like more of a 6,000, 7,000 page count a month, because look at that full shelf of over 200 books that need to be read right now, and this is only the physical TBR. I have a wish list that wants to be added to this shelf. One good thing that I'm really satisfied with is that I finished all the NetGalley arcs that I have planned to read this month. It's a total of 3 arcs, and I was really surprised by one of them, positively surprised. It was so good. I loved it so much. And I had a total of 2 surprises actually, where I thought that I would enjoy the book, but I didn't anticipate how much I would love the book. I had one negative surprise. It wasn't really a negative surprise. It was just that I'm a little bit disappointed, but that was not due to the book, more because the way I read it, and I just couldn't enjoy it. Yeah. But let's get into the details through my whole wrap-up. I do it in a more of a vlogging style because I just want to tell you about the book as soon as I close it up, or if I have to digest it, I'm going to digest it for a few minutes and a maximum a few days, but I want to tell you right away. So if I actually read like 10 books a month, I don't have to sit here and remember it all by the end of the month, and I don't have to take notes, I just can tell you. And this is the best way for me to do it with my busy lifestyle, with my busy job, and I'm traveling a lot, so I don't always have like my stuff ready. I can't always take notes. This is just how it works for me, right? So let's get into the wrap-up. I just finished Olympian Challenger on the train, and I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It was a really nice story. We're following the girl Hope, who is transported to Mount Olympus, and we're then diving into Greek mythology. So the gods are alive and they're trying to find a new challenger who can help them with a quest. And they have transported a lot of people from New York, young people who are apparently descendants from the gods, and one of them will come through several challenges as the Olympian Challenger, who will apparently save the gods somehow. So I think the premise of the book was really good. I generally did really like it a lot. I just had a few issues with it, where I found that some parts of it were unnecessary or just not that well. So overall, I did like the writing style, and I enjoyed the book from the beginning to end. I think I read it in a little over a day. So overall, I did like it. There was just a few plot holes that really killed it for me. So for one, the love interest. Completely unnecessary love interest. There was no swooning over it. It didn't have enough depth to really be interesting enough. And in the very beginning, the main character that we're following asks the love interest, what is the biggest difference between the gods and the humans? And well, the love interest is one of the gods. And he says, well, humans, they figure out that, well, humans can love. So the love interest can't really love. Later on he says, well, I love you, yada yada. No, he just said they can't love. So how is that possible? If you want to do that plot twist with like a god that couldn't love falling in love, then write it out and not just forget that you wrote about it. And other than that, there were a few minor things. Overall, I felt that the main characters were a little bit, so we were introduced to a lot of characters, and I feel like the characters could have had a lot of more depth. They all pretty much had like one major trait, and that is the according to like it just correlates to the god that picked them, and that's it. So there was no depth to the characters whatsoever, and that was lacking a lot for my taste. And then overall, I just felt that our heroine is too goody good, and that just killed it for me completely. And this is why I'm giving 3 out of 5 stars. I just finished the ultimate survival guide to being a girl. I flew through this book. It is a non-fictional book, and it really is pretty much what it says. It is a guide with a lot of tips for being a girl, and most of it is probably for growing up pains. It's for people going through puberty, and I was surprised by how current and how many good tips were in there. It handles how to deal with divorce. It handles how to deal with being gay. It handles how to spot a fake friend. It handles about considering to post something on the internet or not to post, and how to be aware of catfish. It handles healthy eating. It handles being open to cultures, and there's a lot of diversity in this book. So I did give it 3 out of 5 stars, which might be a little unfair, but it just wasn't for me. I'm not a girl going through puberty, so I'm not the target group, and I flew through it because it felt a little, I don't want to say repetitive really, but it was written for young people, but it felt like written for really young people. I'm not sure if the target group is like 11 or 12 or a little bit older. If the target group is 11 or 12, the language is right. If it's a little bit older, I'm not sure. Also, what really annoyed me, and I don't know if you can see it, throughout reading it, the formatting just was so awful. Let me see. There you go. So the sentences are like cut in the middle, and the formatting just killed it for me. I could not read it properly simply because of the formatting. Other than that, I do think it is quite a good book for an 11 or 12-year-old girl trying to figure out the world and going through growing pains. So for that, it is a really good book. For everybody else, not. The next book I read is the Potion Diaries, and I love this so much. So the plot basically is around the Princess Evelyn, who has made a love potion but accidentally drinks it herself and falls in love with herself. So this is quite dangerous for the whole town, for the whole world, because she more and more gets like radical, and like she gets angry that her loved one doesn't join her. And the thing is, she is magical, so she has like magic powers, and these magic powers are starting to unleash. So because this is such a dangerous thing, a wild hunt is called for, which in this world means when a royal is in mortal danger, all the alchemists are asked to find a cure, and whoever wins will be like showered with whatever. So it's a really big thing to win, and there hasn't been a wild hunt in a long time. And this is the chance for our heroine to fight back like the good reputation. Before I get into this too much, what I really loved about this a lot was, first of all, the development of the main character, who is I just really enjoyed following her and her experience throughout the adventure. Also, what I really loved is that this is a fantasy book with like magical elements, but it plays in our like technical times. So they have media, they have social media, they have like apps on a mobile that helps them, and just the whole magic system and how the whole world works. So much fun to me. In the middle of reading it, I was like, oh my god, this cannot be like a standalone. I need more of this series. I need more in this world. And then I luckily realized pretty quickly that there's a book 2. It's just a lot of fun. So I finished Wild Blue Wonder. It was a cute read. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. In my eyes, it wasn't anything really special. The writing style was okay. I still enjoyed it. I did enjoy the last, I'd say, 40 pages most. I was hoping for this to get more emotional, like completely destroying me a lot sooner. And the last pages kind of hit that spot, but only kind of. It didn't totally go there, and I just expected a little bit more bang. It didn't leave a mark as I wanted it to be, so it's a nice read. I totally, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would recommend it to anybody special, anybody looking for a certain read. What I like about it is the main character is a strong girl who's into science and who's an athlete, and some of her trains of thought, how she's like spinning this in her head, I did appreciate, but some was getting quite annoying, and I felt like this book could have done with 50 to 100 pages less. So I just finished Ignite the Stars, and this one was a really, really positive surprise for me. So we're following this girl called Aya. She is a criminal, and a really, really feared criminal, and she is being captured, and then instead of throwing her into jail or executing her, the Starfleet decides that it's they have even bigger fish to fry, or that there's like this big evil coming up, and they'd rather have her on their side, so they bring her into the Starfleet Academy, and she's starting to train with the cadets and everything. And at first she just wants to flee. I mean, she does want to escape pretty much most of the time, but she's also starting to get to know people, and she is just starting to develop feelings for people, like caring for people, and she's getting a little bit conflicted around her decisions and everything. I really, really loved this book. From start to finish. I can't even say much about the writing style, because it sucked me in so much that I didn't notice if the style was good or bad or whatever. It just, it's the type of book where you just dive into the story and you don't even realize how it's being told as much. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but this is totally what I felt with this one. To me, it felt like I had the feeling of like a mix between Throne of Glass and Ender's Game, and to me it was just perfect. I loved the relationships. I loved the strong female characters. We had like several strong female characters. I loved the world. I loved the message. I loved the conflict, like the political conflict in the world, and how it touched some quite recent topics as well. And I loved the love interest, which is not the most common thing for me to do, but I totally shipped this love interest and how it developed. It developed slow enough. It wasn't just like a blind thing. It felt way more real than what I read mostly in YA. It feels like a lot of the love interests in YA often seem a little bit constructed, just for the sake of having a love interest. But in this case, it was perfect. I loved it so much. So overall, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure it is not a literary masterpiece, but I enjoyed it so much that for me it is a 5 out of 5 stars. I could see how some people might not like it as much because, as I said, it's not a literary masterpiece, and I don't know about the writing style because I actually have no idea. So yeah, overall I loved it, and if you like sci-fi, if you like Ender's Game, if you like Throne of Glass, give it a try and let me know what you thought of it. I am done with Queen of Shadows and I loved it so much. I can't really get into this too much without getting into spoilers, so let me try and summarize it in a non-spoilery way. I really did like where the characters were going. I liked that we're seeing strong female kick-ass characters and not only the main character. I did like how some of the main characters changed. I think the main changes you could see in Selena and in Kale, and I totally understand why people don't like the changes that they see. I have also heard people say it's uncharacteristic and that the characters, the way they changed, didn't make sense. But to me, it made total sense. These are young people, right? So we can't forget that these are like really young people, and really young people change when they experience shit. And these people experience a lot of shit. So sorry for my wording, but that's just how it is. And the kind of things that they experienced, this will just change a character, and this will change how somebody, like how they prioritize things, or even how they discuss things. And you can be annoyed by how somebody goes along doing something. You can be annoyed by how somebody is swooning, or how somebody's character is changing because there's new people in their life, or because just the surroundings changed. And I totally understand that this might be disruptive to what you have previously been reading, but to me, the development made total sense, because this is what people at this age go through, and this is how people at this age do change when changes in their surroundings that are that big are happening. So it just made total sense to me. I did like the characters before. I liked all the characters after. I loved that we had a few characters come more to life and how they developed. And I am totally in love with Lysandra. I think the only person I'm not entirely sure is, what is her name? Nesrin Farik? I can't really remember her name. Nesrin. I think that's the only character that is lacking some character depth to me. Oh, I love Manon. I love Keltane and the development, and like all the characters are just, it's an amazing step in their development. I feel like the book before this, Air of Fire, was just trying to like do the setting, and now it kind of all played out. It was a little bit big for my taste, but I enjoyed every single page. You know, when you have this odd moment when you're sitting somewhere reading and you just feel so content with what is happening right now, this is what I was feeling with every single page in this, and that just made me so happy. So where I do understand the critiques, I don't follow them, and this was just amazing and so enjoyable, and I loved it so much. And for me, it is a 5 out of 5 stars, just because of my personal feelings. If I would try to judge this book more objectively, it probably might only be 4 out of 5 stars, but I loved it. I loved it so much. So it's 5 out of 5 stars. I just finished Ramona Blue. I Enjoyed this good enough, but probably not as much as I should have. I do totally see that this is a nicely written book. It is hitting several of the topics that are not enough written about, I believe. I do like how it was all played out. I like the characters. I just think I was not the right target group. And this is for two reasons. This book is mainly character driven. There's some character development that we see, but there's literally there's no plot line. Nothing's happening. And I need a book where stuff happens. So this book is more about finding your place. It's about this girl who believes she is a lesbian and she was very sure of that. And now her feelings are getting all tangled up, and she understands that for her, the sexuality might be fluid. She might be bisexual. She might be pansexual. And it's just a book about finding your place, finding your sexuality. And I love the representation that is in this book. So it's a very diverse, well-rounded book, and I understand why people are raving about it, because people who have gone through similar things, similar experiences, and people who want to learn about how this feels and what goes through your mind and all this kind of thing, I do believe this is a good book. It's just not for me, and this is why I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars. I see the target group, I see how it is a perfect... I personally just have never gone through these struggles, so I cannot relate to it. But this doesn't mean that the book is bad because I can't relate. I mean, I love books that open up my horizon. I love books that show me about how other people, what struggles they're going through, and make me understand more about the world and other people. So this is what I totally like about this type of book. But I am so plot driven that I need something to happen in a book. And there was just not enough for me here to love this book. I've been reading Ramona Blue as part of the booktubers recommend thing I do, where I have asked some of my favorite booktubers to recommend me a book to read in 2018, and I've been reading a book a month so far from these recommendations. And this was recommended to me by Julia Sapphire, and her reasoning for recommending it is she just loves it. And reasons she loved it is the characters, to the writing, to the sexuality rep, the person of color rep, and the lack of sexism. Such an enjoyable read that I didn't want to end. I loved how strong Ramona was, and I just really liked this book. I love how the relationships crushed gender stereotypes and roles. Ramona calling Freddie her Wendy, and all the Peter Pan references made me so happy. Plus, I am trash for this romance. I get it, I totally get it, and I think this is what this book is really good for. It is not exactly my type of book, but I totally get it, and I am so glad that I picked it up thanks to Julia Sapphire. It did broaden my horizon, and I probably wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't for you. Thank you for the recommendation. I have finished Walkers by Victoria Aveyard, and this was one of my most anticipated reads because I just love the Red Queen series and I really wanted to get to it. But I can't make up my mind about what I'm supposed to think, how I like this ending, and I do believe that the reading experience might have been negatively influenced by the medium that I chose to use. So I chose to listen to it on audiobook and not read it in a physical copy, simply because I had it available on audiobook, and I need an audiobook anyways for my daily walks and for like when I'm driving and stuff. So I picked it, and I think that my experience just was negatively influenced simply because I at times didn't know who was talking. When I paused it and came back, I didn't know who was whose voice I was following. I was not able to determine by the voices who is whose perspective it is right now. And that started to confuse me so much that I think that I started mixing up things in my head, and I'm missing big chunks of this book. So in order to properly judge this book, I will read it again in a physical version. And and I will make up my mind then. And well, I can only, with this one, even though I do like using audiobooks, with this one I do think it's a bad choice, and I cannot recommend the audiobook simply because there's just female voices. They're too similar for my taste, and I cannot determine who's speaking right now, and that just might kill this book. So yeah, on to the last one. I was hoping that I can still finish Now I Rise and Empire of Storms, I think, with the actual time that I still have left, and I am expecting a makeup client to do her trial makeup for her wedding today, so I don't think that I'm going to be able to read and finish both books, but I will finish up this one. The last book I have read in August is Now I Rise by Kirsten White. I believe this is the second in a trilogy, and this is just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful series. So I was really hoping that I could read one more book for the nudes at least, but it's shortly after midnight and August is officially over, so this is the last one in August. Now I Rise is part of the Conquest trilogy or the And I Darken trilogy. We're pretty much following a pair of sister and brother who live around, so this starts at 1453. Which is around the time that Constantinople is being attacked and the Turks want to get Constantinople back from the Roman Empire, from Constantine. And we're following this pair of brother and sister who are from Wallachia, I believe it's pronounced, and it's pretty much Vlad Dracul if he would have been a girl, and her brother. And this is just so beautifully written. I wish all my history lessons would have been like this, because this reads more like a fun fantasy story, but it's very, very history. And I feel like I truly understand more about the history in this area, about how people would be dealing with each other and what actually happened. There's like no fantasy elements whatsoever, but for some reason it feels like I'm reading a fantasy story, and I can get lost in it so much, and at the end I look up and I'm like, I just got a history lesson. So this is not only well researched, it's well written, and it's such an amazing story, and I can just recommend it so much to just pick it up and give this a try. This book is written out of two perspectives, Radu's and Lada's, and even though the characters are not always sharing the same location, it doesn't feel confusing. It makes total sense, and I just love it. Sometimes I hate when we're like in too many places at once, but in this case it's just perfect. I love how they have even a relationship with each other, even if they are apart, and how it all like circles back. Also, what I really love is that the characters are very atypical when you look at stereotypes. So I like when an author is trying to break with stereotypes, and Kirsten White is bringing these turnaround stereotypes into a time where that even might have been a little bit more challenging. So we have this like beautiful, handsome boy who is really good at negotiation and political manipulation and this kind of stuff. And then we have this feral, aggressive, power-hungry girl who just wants to get her country back and rule it. What I love as well is how a gay and lesbian characteristic, and I don't want to say lifestyle, but just like we have a few characters that are gay and how they deal with it, how they, in this time, what they're confronted with. It feels very, very just well written, and it fits the time, and it doesn't feel awkward at all. So it is so good. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. Pick this up. This is it for today. I hope you liked what you saw. If you liked watching me, if you liked what I told you about the books and whatnot, for whatever reason, please hit that subscribe button. Show me some love. Help me grow. and go definitely check out my monthly giveaway. If you don't know that yet, I do monthly giveaways where I give away all the stuff from like subscription boxes that I don't need, don't want to keep. I give away books every month and all these bookish items. There's always something amazing in there to win. So you definitely should check that out. So that is it for today, and I hope to see you again really soon on my channel. Until then, bye!